Joining me is Winfried Feneberg, the Superintendent of the Kearsarge Regional School District. I want to talk a bit about the budget.
Sure.
And, you know, I've talked to other colleagues in other areas, and one of the fundamental differences about New Hampshire, Vermont, is the citizen democracy. Mm-hmm. Every citizen in your 7 towns, as in other towns, gets a chance to vote up or down on the budget. And that's not true. My sister lives in a major metropolitan area. They just get the tax rate told to them. Their elected officials decide that. How does that sort of shape the whole process for you all? That the citizen involvement from the beginning, and Kearsarge is a very different town because it's a 2-step process too. You go through a deliberative session where amendments can be made, and then you go to an annual vote, in the ballot box.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. It is from the very beginning of the budgeting process. You always have your communities in mind. You have the needs of the communities in mind. You have the needs of the students in mind. We work with a school board, a 9-member board, and we work with a municipal budget committee that works to look and review the budget and alter it if needed. The budget development really starts in May or June for almost 2 years out. We work hard over the summer to look at the needs in the individual schools. We try to be very modest and conservative in terms of asking people to fund our budget. And I thought we had been very successful if you look at the last 5 years in terms of managing the pressures that we get from limited state aid, retirement funds.
So in your case, the retirement funds, what you're talking about is the state, this teacher retirement, but the state doesn't contribute to that.
The state does not contribute anymore. That's really on the shoulders of the teachers and the communities.
And at one time, the state did contribute to that.
Yes, but that has been, again, the state withdrawing from these funding mechanisms and really putting it on the local towns.
But the state controls the investment policies associated with retirement.
Well, it's the retirement board. It's really an independent review board that makes the investments and reviews the investments.
But that's not at the district level. That is at the state level.
Yeah, the rates are set for every 2 years, and we got new rates, and again they increased over 10% for the teacher group, and we have to absorb that in our budget. So when we looked at the budget development and looked at what are the fixed costs that we get, and those are in part teacher contracts, and we had a multi-year contract that was voted by the voters after tough negotiations. So there is a chunk of money. Then retirement, the new rates that increased is a chunk of money, and then the benefits, the health insurance that is part of the teacher contract. When we added all this up, it was about 92% of the increase for next year.
So 92% of the variance from year
to year budget increase, yes,
is either contractually obligated or legally obligated.
Yeah. So we had about $90,000.
It doesn't leave you much to play with.
It was about $90,000 for everything else to operate the schools that we asked for an increase. And we needed to keep that as low as possible to balance off the other increases.
So a 10% increase in retirement, for example, and I don't know what the number is offhand, but given that there's a large population in this district of faculty and staff, that can't be a small number. And over time, the inflation rate of that number has got to be greater than the average increase in wages for the citizens.
Well, there are 2 contributing factors. There are, in the retirement system, there was a review about 5-6 years ago where there was a concern that it wouldn't be viable over the long run, that there is an obligation to retired teachers who had worked 30, 40 years in districts, and now we're ready to retire.
They paid in? Was the rules of the game?
But there was a shortfall, and that shortfall was addressed over the next 30 years. So there is a large portion of that increase is to address the perhaps mistakes or miscalculations that were made in that system the last 10 or 20 years. One big part also was that as times were good and there was a surplus in that retirement projection, the town's portion and the state's portion were perhaps artificially reduced. So while teachers' rates were always fixed at 5 and now 7% of their income, the town's contribution fluctuated. While it's now about that 10% increase and significantly larger than the 7% that the teachers pay, there were times when they paid hardly anything.
So
we're making up for past shortfalls, and that's why these numbers over the next few years probably will increase until that hole is filled.
Well, we're out of time in this segment. When we return, we're going to continue our conversation focusing on specific budget issues and also more about the state involvement. So please stay with us.